Hi, I'm Betsy James, reading from my latest novel, Roadsouls, on a gray day in New Mexico. Raim has been sacrificed to the mountain, locked into an abandoned mine. His only chance is to climb down a bottomless mine shaft, searching for another way out. A rope hangs down the shaft, but the wicker lift basket on it is destroyed. Raim is totally blind. The mine is totally dark. He's feeling his way down on pins driven into the rock. He crept down the iron pins. Under his feet and fingers, fat flakes of rust scaled off, whispering as they spun down and away. He made himself think he was just climbing a ladder at the apple harvest or on his aunt's roof after cleaning the chimney with a rock tied to a string. Terror gripped him. The vacuous depth wanted a weight drop down it. Numb, electric, his fingers loosened. This passed. He climbed on down into the pit. He tried to think of the shaft as solid dark, as if he sat at Ta-Ba's loom, weaving a vertical stripe of darkest black. The shaft grew warmer a little as he climbed down into it. At intervals, there was a different kind of pin, a bracket with both ends in the rock. He could put his arm through and rest a moment. "Thank you," he said into the dark. Then on down. The rasp and chink of his footsteps changed. Instead of pins, there were two brackets together. He could swing to his left into the mouth of a tunnel. No draft issued from it. He followed it. A rockfall had closed it. The fallen stones were huge. He could not move them. He returned to the shaft. There will be more tunnels below, he thought. I can climb back up if I have to. He went down. The air was distinctly warmer. He came level with the source of the sounding drip, perhaps a spring somewhere out of reach on the shaft's far wall. Then many drips. All around him water tinkled and rang like faintest rain. The chunks of rust that flaked from the pins were larger. He had a companion, however. Now and then his hand, if he swung it outward, knocked against the rope. The shaft must be a little crooked, and the rope did not hang dead center. The first time he hit it, it startled him so that he nearly fell, thinking there was something hairy out there. After that, he felt for it now and then, something from the upper world. 3 more tunnels. At each, he stepped off the ladder and felt his way about. In one, a rusty hook had been driven into the wall, perhaps to anchor the basket. Otherwise, each was like the others, empty and still. Each must lead somewhere, but there was no way to know where, out or further in, or nowhere in particular. He stood in the mouth of the 4th tunnel, bleak. The bold madness in which he had taken refuge was wearing thin. He knew he would die. Not just death, but a bad death. Since his blinding, he had driven people away. He had refused his family and the hold and Ta-Ba, refused the Roadsouls. Of everyone but Dooney, he had demanded loneliness. Now it seemed some wandering god had heard his prayer and had given him what he wanted. He let that thought sink in. But maybe with Dooney, he was not so foolish as to think that one yes could buy off years of no. "Then that's how it will be," he said aloud. His body gave a little squirm of grief. "I'm sorry." He groped back to the rungs and went down. The shaft got wetter, water rushing and falling on its sides. A pin, too rusty, bent under his foot. The next one held, but the one below it broke away at the rock. He climbed back up to the last tunnel, thought, why shouldn't he go lower? There might be more tunnels, probably just like the others. He should try this one. If it led nowhere and he still had strength, he could try the next one up, then the next, until he was too weak to climb and lay where he had fallen. But the ladder led down. He thought, if I held on to the rope, I could take half my weight off the rusted pins. I could get a little farther down and be sure there's no other way. He tried to catch the rope. Here it hung out of reach. He could not tell how far. He made a makeshift bolo of his breeks by holding one cuff and knotting into the other a rock from the tunnel floor. The bolo wound around the rope and fell off. In the end, it was luck. As he shifted his footing for another try, he stepped on a rusty mattock abandoned on the tunnel floor. By fishing in the air, he caught the rope and drew it close enough to hitch over the rusty wall hook. He put the breeks back on, unhooked the rope, gripped it under one arm, and went down. More and more he had to trust it, for the pins bent or crumbled. It wanted to hang straight, and as he felt for a pin with one foot, it tried to pull him away from the wall. "Better go back," he said under his breath. To his left and below, a soft rush of water. He half dangled, not trusting the pins, went down one more rung, heard a change in the sound, crept down another precarious step, and was sure of it. Another tunnel. Water poured from it. He eased himself down. The pins would not hold him, but the rope did. It swung him out into the shaft, swung him back. He went down like a steeplejack, and with a kick and a scramble stood to his ankles in a stream, hearing its waterfall spill down into the shaft. With a rope in the crook of his elbow, he knelt, cupped the water, and drank. It tasted metallic and clean, faintly warm. He drank again, then stood, thinking, "This is where I will go." If he let go of the rope, it would swing out into the middle of the shaft where he could never retrieve it. He felt around for a wall hook. There was none. Maybe he could drag a section up and weight it somehow. Then, if he had to, he could climb back up. With both hands and all his strength, he dragged a little arch of slack into the tunnel mouth. The rope bent in his hands as if it pushed him. From above in the shaft came a sound like bats or snakes, a whispering racket. He stood puzzled, holding the now limp length. At the last instant, he had the presence of mind to let go as the whole length of the rope came coiling and slithering down the shaft with terrible weight, snapping the shattered basket after it into the pit. Then, only the rushing of water. He stood with his hands open, rubbed his face on his shoulder. "This is where I will go," he said again. His voice shook, but the noise of the water drowned it. Turning, he found the wall with his left hand and began to wade upstream into the mountain. Thank you.